Change this over here. Hey. Hello, everyone. We are live. I am back. I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, and I am the managing attorney at Williams Immigration, a boutique immigration law firm where we help businesses and families navigate our U.S. immigration system. And Monday through Thursday, I like to come live, roughly about this time, 7-ish Eastern Standard. I was out last week because I was out of town and doing super busy most nights, but I am back. So I wanted to give you guys an update and then field some questions if you guys have any. And so what I wanted to talk about and wanted you guys to know about is the government shutdown and what it means for your immigration case. So many immigration cases are touched by more than one government agency. So I wanted to kind of go through what each government agency is doing, what they're not doing, so that you have an idea of what's going to happen with your case during this shutdown, since we don't know how long the shutdown will be. Especially if you have an employment-based case, so if your employer is filing something for you, if they're filing a green card for you, if they're filing an H-1B, if they're filing some sort of non-immigrant application for you, Department of Labor is not doing anything right now because of the shutdown. So if you need an LCA, if you need a prevailing wage done, if you need your perm filed, if your perm is already filed and you need it processed, if your LCA has already been submitted but you need that processed, if you need your prevailing wage processed, that none of that is happening right now because of the shutdown. And that is principally because the Department of Labor does not operate based on fees. They operate based on money that they get from Congress. And so without an appropriations bill, they don't have the budget in order to keep operating. Next up is USCIS. We're going to take this in kind of two buckets. One is for all the cases that USCIS processes, whether it be employment-based case or a family-based case. USCIS is up and running. Folks are at work. They're at their desk. They're processing applications. So those applications are being processed. So don't assume that if you have an interview scheduled or you have a biometric scheduled, don't assume that those are going to be automatically postponed. CIS is still up and running. Now, the second bucket within USCIS is E-Verify. This is for all of my employers out there. If you are an employer and you are using E-Verify, E-Verify is currently not working, in part because E-Verify funds come from Congress. So again, without a budget, without an appropriations bill passed, the E-Verify is not working. So if you are an employer that normally, or you're an employer that participates in E-Verify, as part of your onboarding process, you can still onboard people. You still must complete the I-9, but you need to make a note so that you can run folks through E-Verify once the system is back up and running. So just because E-Verify is not running doesn't mean that you can't bring folks on board. The State Department. So the State Department oversees all of the consulates outside of the U.S. The State Department gets quite a bit of its funding through the fees that it has folks paying. So the State Department for now is up and running. So the consulates are up and running. Let me say this. If your case needs to go through Department of Labor, but Department of Labor is not up and running, then you may not be able to get to file your case. So your case may not be at USCIS. If your case needs to go from USCIS to NVC to the consulate, it may just be a little bit slower. So just keep that in mind. The other thing I want people to understand is that EOIR is running. So EOIR is handling non-detained and detained cases. So if your loved one is detained, their case is moving forward. If you are in front of an immigration judge or you are in deportation proceedings, but you are non-detained, let's say you have an ankle monitor or something like that, and you have a check-in scheduled, non-detained and detained cases are going. So don't assume that any upcoming hearings that you have are going to automatically be rescheduled. We have not heard any of that from them yet. And I don't actually think we will. And ICE, we know ICE is out there still working. So that is sort of your update on the government shutdown and immigration. And, if your case needs to touch more than one of these agencies, there may be a delay. But USCIS right now is up and running except for E-Verify. Department of Labor is not. So your LCAs, your prevailing wages, and your PERM applications are just sitting at the moment. So that's what we have. So if y'all have any questions about the shutdown, feel free to ask those. I will answer those to the best of my ability. We are all just sort of cruising along with this shutdown as best we can. The other thing I wanted to let y'all know about is if you have a My USCIS account and you have decided or you are required to upload things to that account, then there is a deadline. Understand that the My USCIS account uses Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC, when it is doing deadlines. So if you are in California versus New York and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm in California, that gives me a couple of more hours, it doesn't. And if you are thinking that you're in New York, just be aware that USCIS uses UTC. So you want to make sure that you have a good time conversion website. You do not want to get your case denied because the time zone math was not good. And so as an immigration attorney, we do time zone math all the time. So just make sure that you are doing that correctly. And if you haven't filed your case yet and you're getting ready to file it effective October 29 this month, a couple of weeks, USCIS will no longer take checks and money orders. They're no longer taking paper in order to process cases, so they're only taking electronic payments. Electronic payments drawn on U.S. bank accounts. So keep that in mind, please. That is super, super important. So let me see. So those are really kind of the updates that I wanted to give you guys today. What questions do you have for me? Someone is asking any reason why they cut off flag this time around. I have no idea why they cut off flag. I'm guessing because flag is run by the Department of Labor, and Department of Labor is not. Department of Labor does not, or and let me put it in the positive. Department of Labor runs based on funds that are appropriated from Congress. If there is no budget, there's no appropriations, then the folks that monitor the flag website and make sure it's working and answer questions when people have problems with it are not there to do their job. So my guess is that is why flag is down. It would seem to me that having some sort of tech problem just pile up and pile up and pile up, and more people and no one there to fix it would be worse. So they're not. They've shut it down. So let's see here. What questions do we have? I hope that was helpful. Let me see here. How long are the K1 processing? I have no idea. I would, if you're looking for the I-129F, to see that processing time, I would go onto the USCIS website and look at the processing times, and it will absolutely tell you. And one of the things they've done in terms of the processing times in general on the USCIS website is when the same case type is adjudicated in multiple offices, and this happens quite a bit with employment-based cases, they are moving such that they no longer will give us processing times for each individual office. They will give us a combined, sorry, my messages. They will give us a combined processing time, which some people like, some people don't. You know, it is what it is. Like, it's not like we're going to be able to change that. So just keep that in mind. So always use the drop-down menu, see if it gives you an option of checking, you know, the specific office that's processing your case. But if not, don't freak out. It's something that they are making a move towards changing. And there's a storm coming through here, but you know, that is kind of Florida, but it's been kind of rolling through all day. So if I get cut off or I don't have internet, that's the storm. What questions do they ask for marriage-based cases? The questions are about your relationship. So how did you meet? You know, what you guys have for dinner last week? What's your spouse's favorite food? That kind of thing. It's all about your life together. You know, who cleans the kitchen, who cooks the most, that sort of thing. It is really all about your life together. I always tell my clients, if y'all are living together and doing your thing, the questions should not freak you out. They should not freak you out. The questions are designed to ensure that people are in a relationship, not necessarily designed to get at whether or not you are living together, because that is not a requirement, but designed to show that you are in a relationship together. But yeah, they're really just about your life together. If you are freaked out or concerned about the questions and, you know, sort of that process, you're welcome to reach out to attorneys. I know several of my colleagues will do mock interviews with folks so that they feel more comfortable going into an interview. We still haven't been scheduled for an interview. It's been 3 months, Montreal, Canada. Scheduled 3 months doesn't completely freak me out, although I don't know what kind of case you have. But yeah, 3 months doesn't necessarily freak me out, depending on the type of case. And the crazy thing is that they really don't tell us what they're processing. So that's so to that extent, it kind of goes into a little bit of a black hole. If my spouse doesn't make the minimum amount required, can I be a joint sponsor? If it is your spouse and you are sponsoring them, then no. You are already, your income is already taken into consideration, your assets, what have you. If you don't make enough and you are sponsoring your spouse, then you all need to reach out to someone else to be a joint sponsor, or you can look at assets. Is it safe traveling to DC with a pending asylum? I mean, I'm telling my clients to stay away from the airport. I'd have to know a lot more, but in general, I'm telling most of my clients to stay away from airports. If you have any sort of criminal background at any point, at any time, from anywhere in the world, and you are here without status, then I'm telling my specific clients, to stay away from airports. That is just walking into ICE territory. But I don't know if there's anything real specific about traveling to DC that doesn't particularly give me pause. What else do we have here? Can you have a criminal record and still get a green card? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is it depends on what kind of crime you have, how long ago, what 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 happened, what was the crime. So it's really very, very, very fact dependent. But just because you have a criminal record does not mean that that automatically means that you can't get a green card. It just means that we would have to, you know, I sit down with my clients and really go through that criminal record and then do the analysis of whether or not I think, you know, they're going to have challenges to getting their green card. And if so, what are those challenges? You know, we talk about the challenges, how we think we can overcome those challenges, the timeframes, you know, the documents that we need to overcome those challenges. So just because you have a criminal history does not mean that you cannot get a green card. Someone is asking what made me want to become an immigration attorney after working for the service. I was actually already an immigration attorney before I went into the immigration service. So before I worked at USCIS, I was an immigration attorney. Is it normal to not get an I-360 receipt notice after 4 months? I don't know because I don't generally handle cases that require a 360. But I do seem to recall some friends and colleagues talking about that it was taking them a while to get receipt notices. I think it was for I-360s, but I'm not 100% positive on that. But sometimes it does take a while to get receipt notices, unfortunately. But I'm not sure if the I-360s are particularly prickly at this point when it comes to receipt notices. Approved I-130, been waiting for a State Department waiver for over 4 years, had to file twice. Any SUG? I'm assuming that means suggestions. I have no idea. I don't know why it's been pending that long. I would want, before, I can't really offer up any suggestions because I don't know a whole lot, except what you've typed in there. But 4 years seems to be a little bit of a long time. So I would want to see a full copy of what was filed, the history of what was filed. Sometimes people will come to me and say, my case has been pending for X number of years or X number of months. And when I see what was filed, then I know why it was pending, right? And so without looking at the file, I don't unfortunately have any suggestions. Like real concrete suggestions really kind of depend on what was in your file specifically. And sometimes, to be truthful, sometimes files just get lost, right? Like it is a massive operation. So files can be misplaced, files can get lost. So, without actually looking at your file, I don't know. Some people would jump to going to federal court. That is not where I jump to. I want to see what was filed, to see if I can glean anything from that. Someone is asking me if I could practice law while working at the agency. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, that was not even an option. Past naturalization interview last week. Congratulations, but wasn't sworn in. How long until swearing in usually? Completely depends on your local office. Completely depends on their workload. Many local offices want a certain number of people in the room to be naturalized, to take that oath. because there's a lot of work in the background to ensure that people still qualify, to make sure that all the certificates are done correctly. Like there's a lot of administrative work in the background to get ready for a naturalization swearing in ceremony. All the notices have to go out. So it really depends on how close that office is to having the desired number of people that they like to have sworn in. And it depends on, do they have, how quickly can they get all that work done once they have the desired number of people. I've had clients recently that have had their interview and then they've been sworn in on the same day. And I have some where they have to wait a couple of weeks. I've had some where they've had to wait maybe a month or so. So it really honestly depends on the office, like that specific office. Someone is asking where I am located. I am located in Florida, but I work with folks all over the country. So where I am located is, it's just kind of where I like to live, but I work with folks all over the country. Let's see here. What else do we have? When you file your paperwork and you get the receipt, does the A number come out on your receipt? Yes. Yes, your A number will be on your receipt notice. Can I apply for a green card if I have a DUI? It's a misdemeanor, or do I need to hire an attorney? DUIs are sticky. I recommend that whenever somebody has any criminal history anywhere in the world, not just here in the US, that they work with a lawyer on their file. The current administration ran on a platform of anti-crime when it comes to the US immigration process. So if you have any sort of crime anywhere in the world at any point before filing, I would work with an attorney, just because the crime in the US and in the specific jurisdiction that you are in says that the crime is a misdemeanor does not mean that it does not potentially have impact on your immigration case. That is a fallacy that I hear from people all the time. They say, "Oh, but Attorney Carol, it doesn't, it's a misdemeanor, so it doesn't mean anything." That's not always going to be the case. So I think it's very important that you get someone on your team who can do that immigration analysis for you. Let me see here. My husband applied for his parents, and it's been a year and nothing. Applied, I'm going to assume, a green card. I don't know if it was applied in the US, outside the US. Like, I don't know where the parents are, but that doesn't particularly surprise me. I would, if it were my case, I would go online and see what the processing times are. If we are outside the processing times, then I ping USCIS and I say, "Hey, what's happening? Can you give me an update?" And they do respond. Like, they do respond. Now, I may not always like the response. Let me be clear. I may not always like the response, but I generally get a response. So, well, let me see here. I sent an expedite to NVC, and they denied it, saying I was documentarily ready. What does that mean? It means they denied your expedite. Expedites are hard to get. The Immigration Service in general processes cases first in, first out. So when you're asking for expedite, you are asking to be jumped ahead of everybody else in line. That could be hundreds of people, that could be thousands of people. The Immigration Service takes expedites very, very seriously, because what they're not going to do is jump everybody in front of everybody else. Like they're not going to do that. And while I think my expedite requests should be jumped ahead in line, CIS doesn't necessarily agree with me on that, right? So if your case is documentarily qualified, it means that they have all the documents that they need. And so they may actually be getting ready to schedule you an interview already. But yeah, unfortunately, many expedites get denied often, because the Immigration Service is very, very particular about when it is willing to jump a case ahead in line. So unfortunately, not all expedites are approved. If your case is sent to Texas, does that mean it will take longer to process? Not necessarily. It depends on what the current processing times are out of Texas. Depends on what type of case you have. So processing times will always depend on the type of case, and where it was filed. Those are the two things that are always going to impact processing time. My cases coming out of Texas are usually, I don't want to say always, but 90% of them are employment-based cases, and I can't really say that I think they're taking any longer than other service centers. Amazon Goddess is back. We had our interview today. Told by the officer that they're going to approve AOS. Yay! That is exciting. But had to go over the I-864 with joint sponsor before the official approval. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that as an almost partial win. That's exciting. Yeah, as long as there's nothing going on with your I-864, then you'll probably get approved. That's great news. I love great news. Let's see here. Does bad credit affect citizenship? Well, that's a good question. I like that question. It can. It depends on what that bad credit looks like. And by that I mean, do you have a string of unpaid bills? And that's a problem. Well, your credit's not really impacted, I think, by an IRS back taxes, but do you have back taxes? So it really kind of depends on what has caused the bad credit. And by bad credit, I am thinking of just the number, just the credit score number. So the credit score number itself, no, but it's really what has led to the bad credit, and are the things that have led to the bad credit things that USCIS doesn't particularly like to see and will determine that you don't have good moral character. So I would really look at why. If someone came to me with this question as a client, I would look at why they have bad credit. Well, one, how they're defining bad credit, but two, what happened to cause the bad credit, because that may influence more how we strategize the case. And if there are things that I think we can do to clean up your quote unquote bad credit, or sort of deal with the things that are causing you to say that you have bad credit. So it's kind of it depends answer, But it's not just a credit score that, that will impact it. Amazon got us to 61. I get it. You don't want to count all your eggs before they hatch. So I will be partially happy with you, but I get it. But I'm glad you came back and said something that makes me happy. Hold on. What other questions do we have? I actually can't stay on long tonight. Thanks for the hearts, guys, and for the shares. I appreciate that. Let me see. I haven't heard of anybody being denied for bad credit, but like I said, it's not necessarily about a credit score. It's about why you are saying that you have bad credit. Like what is that? So I would focus on that more so than have I personally ever heard of someone who's been denied for bad credit. Let's see here. Let's see if we've got one more question before I have to log off. I saw something earlier that I wanted to talk about, and of course I won't be able to. Oh, yes. Somebody's asking about documents to file for their family-based green card for an RFE. The documents that you would, so I guess let me say it this way. An RFE is a request for further evidence, which we may or may not know. That is the Immigration Service. I always say continuing to talk to us. So I don't ever, I get irritated when I get RFEs, but like it's at the end of the day, they're still having a conversation with me. So that makes me very happy. But an RFE is when the Immigration Service has more questions. So, but an RFE, unlike your initial application, the RFEs are very targeted. So in terms of advice on preparation for documents, give them what they've asked for. Truly, like I know that sounds like a little like snarky, but give them what they've asked for. They are very, very specific in what they ask for. They're very targeted. If you have to show 6 things and they've only asked questions on 2 of those things, only submit documents on those 2 things that they are asking for. I've seen people sort of spin out and, they want to give me all these documents for all these other things. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like they're only asking us about 2 things. I want us to be super focused, super, super targeted. So, oftentimes the conversation is, but I don't have the documents that they are asking for, right? They've asked for documents on 2 things. I don't have those documents. What do I do? That is when my clients and I start to think a little bit outside the box. There are ways to sort of give them what they're asking for without really sort of giving them like a specific document. And in most of my RFEs, they say, if you don't have this specific document, then, give us something else that gives us the same information. A good example of that is if you don't have someone's birth certificate and a birth certificate is required, people have been able to submit copies of a family Bible because some folks, based on their religion, based on their beliefs, will write out the birthdays of everyone in the family in the family Bible. The thought process behind that is that people aren't going to lie about a birthday in a family Bible, right? So things like that. So you kind of have to sometimes think a little bit outside the box if you don't have exactly what they are asking for. And sometimes, even if you have exactly what they are asking for, there's nothing that says that you can't give them more that gets to the exact same thing that they are asking for. So that's kind of how I look at RFEs and the documents. They they are very targeted. They are very specific. An RFE means that an officer has gone through your file, whatever was initially submitted, and has questions. And so again, they're very targeted. I don't always like getting RFEs. Like, I'm super honest about that, but they're pretty targeted. And so that I find to be super, super helpful. So stick to the information that they have asked for. It's really kind of the best advice I have on responding to RFEs. Yeah. So I see that other people joined my fan club. I appreciate that. I think thanks. So that's all I have for tonight, honestly, because I got to jump off. I got to get some more work done, and I have to eat dinner. I always eat dinner after my lives. But I got to jump off. I got to eat dinner. I got to do a little bit of work, and I'm rearranging some furniture, which Jared just got in that place where I just like, it just needs to be rearranged, and like it has to be done like right now. So I've been wanting to do it ever since I woke up this morning. So it will be rearranged before I go to bed tonight. So that is one of the other reasons why I need to hop off. Probably more information than you ever needed to know about me, but I am who I am. So I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. If you guys have any questions, you are looking to get some help on your cases, I help and work with oftentimes business owners and families navigating this super complicated U.S. immigration system. Let me check my calendar. I'm pretty sure usually I'm live Monday through Thursday around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But let me check my calendar. Yeah, this week is good. Last week I was out of town, but this week is good. So I will see you all Monday through Thursday this week live, 7-ish p.m. So I will chat with y'all tomorrow evening. Have a great rest of your night. I'm going to go eat, do some work, and move some furniture around. I will talk to y'all later. Bye.